Hello everyone, welcome to Logic Medico. Today's interesting topic is development of respiratory system. This is the early stage of the embryo. In the initial 2 or 3 weeks, the embryo represented by a disc shape. That black dark line is actually an embryo. It is like a disc. In front of the embryo, ventral to the embryo, there is a cavity called as yolk sac. Dorsal to the embryo, there is a cavity called as amniotic cavity. As the embryo grows in size, the yolk sac will be drawn into the embryo to form the gut, and the amniotic cavity enlarges and encircles the embryo. So during the 4th week of intrauterine life, there are 4 folds developing within the embryo. What are these 4 folds? At the cranial end, at the upper end of the embryo, we have the head fold. At the lower end of the embryo, we have the tail fold. In the middle of the embryo, we have 2 lateral folds. So because of these folds, there are 4 folds. That is head fold, tail fold and 2 lateral folds. Because of these 4 folds, the yolk sac will be drawn into the embryo. As you can see, the yolk sac which was there in front of the embryo is now drawn into the embryo, and also amniotic cavity is enlarged. It is encircling the embryo. Now the embryo has changed its shape from disc shape to a cylindrical shape. Now the yolk sac which has gone into the embryo is called as gut. G-U-T, gut. It will give rise to the future gastrointestinal tract. Okay. So that part of the yolk sac which is there in the head fold of the embryo is now called as foregut. That part of the yolk sac which is there in the tail fold of the embryo is now called as hindgut. And that part of the yolk sac between the 2 lateral fold is called as midgut. For time being, if you remember the foregut, it's good enough. So what is foregut? It is nothing but the yolk sac. At the end of 4 weeks, the yolk sac is drawn into the head fold. Is called as foregut. So this foregut will give rise to the oral cavity, the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach and duodenum up to the opening of common bile duct. So foregut gives rise to upper part of the GIT, upper GI tract, gastrointestinal tract. The ventral aspect of this foregut, there is a groove arising. You can see the dark outpouching. It's called as laryngotracheal groove. Laryngotracheal groove. That groove will deepen. The groove keeps on deepening. Okay, initially it is small like this. Later it becomes enlarged. Later it becomes tubular. That groove is called as laryngotracheal diverticulum. It becomes an outpouching. It becomes a balloon called as laryngotracheal diverticulum. So this laryngotracheal diverticulum is separated from the gut, the foregut, the future esophagus area, by a coronally oriented septum called as tracheoesophageal septa. This tracheoesophageal septa is oriented in the coronal plane. So it separates the future trachea from the future esophagus. Therefore it's called as tracheoesophageal septa. So let's continue with laryngotracheal diverticulum. The initially a small groove, later it gets elongated, later tubular. The laryngotracheal diverticulum, the lowermost end, give rise to 2 grape-like extensions, grape-like bulges called as lung buds. So what is the future of this laryngotracheal diverticulum and lung buds? It's very simple. The upper part of the laryngotracheal diverticulum, the upper portion of this, will give rise to larynx. That is a voice box. The lower part of laryngotracheal diverticulum give rise to trachea. That is a windpipe. The lowermost part where the lung buds are there, that will give rise to lungs. In order to summarize, the upper part of the laryngotracheal diverticulum give rise to larynx. The lower part of laryngotracheal diverticulum give rise to trachea. The lowermost part which became like a grape-like extension called as lung buds, that give rise to lungs. These lungs, larynx and trachea, initially they are solid. Okay, the entire cells fill up this lumen. Later it undergoes one stage, pseudo-canalicular stage, where multiple sieve like a mosquito net or a fish net like structures arises the cells are going to die. So these C will be there. It's called pseudocanalicular stage. And the last stage is called as alveolar stage. So in the first trimester we have the glandular stage or the solid stage. In the next trimester of pregnancy we have the pseudocanalicular stage. In the third trimester of pregnancy, actually grape like extension, delete the inner portion of the grape, it will become alveoli. So the lung is now ready for exchange of gases along with surfactant, which prevents the collapse of the alveoli of lung. Therefore, the compatibility or the survival ability of a child will be only after 7 months of pregnancy or gestation, which is the beginning of third trimester. So this is the formation of the respiratory tract. So this respiratory tract is connected to the foregut, this area. That shows that it is developed from the endoderm of the foregut. The cartilages of the larynx are developed separately. The epiglottis is developed from hypobranchial eminence. The thyroid cartilage is developed from 4th branchial arch. The cricoid cartilage is developed from 6th branchial arch. The tracheal rings are developed from the lower part of laryngotracheal diverticulum, from the adjacent mesoderm. The pleura is developed from pleuroperitoneal cavity or the serous cavity or the coelomic cavity, the pleura of the lungs. So this is about the development of respiratory system. Thank you for watching and learning from Logic Medico. Bye. Kindly press the thumbs up icon if you like this video, and don't forget to share this video with your friends too. Thank you once again. Bye.